Some people think your success is measured by the amount of intelligence you have. Life has taught me it's not about that. It's about working hard towards your goal, never quitting until you get there. Don't stop till you get there. Let's pass.
Okay, sorry for that. I was just sending the link to one of my assistants in case the student asked for it. I think we're all good and live. Let me just check here in my computer. Yes, we are. Perfect. Hello, my name's Fernando Cardona. I help people pass the ASVAB. I've been doing this for 9 years. Probably if you're seeing this video, you know about me. I would appreciate if any person seeing this video would give a share and a like. We never know who is going to see this that might change their lives for the better, might encourage them to start getting orientation or start the process of joining the military. Today, I have a guest, recruiter Scott Bove. I met him a few months ago, and he was kind enough to spend some time with us today, clarify a few doubts, talk about different things regarding the military. And at the end, if you have any questions, you can send them on the Facebook. If you're a student, you can send them through Telegram, and we'll be answering some of them. Some of the questions might be a little bit too, like if somebody asks something too complicated, we might tell you to contact Mr. Bove personally. At the end, I'll give you guys his contact information. And yes, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Had a lot of coffee. I've had 4 cups. So.
That's never a bad thing.
Never. You have to come to my house one day and taste. I'm getting it. The only thing I don't get is the latte art. I have to be honest. It's a hit or miss. It's never accurate with the latte.
As long as it tastes good, that's all that matters.
True. So tell us a little bit about yourself. How long have you been in the Army?
So I've been in for just over 12 years now. I hit my 12-year mark on May 3rd. So not too long ago. I joined back in 2010. I was infantry, was my first MOS when I first enlisted. I did that for the first little over 8 years. And then when I was, to kind of back up a little bit, my first duty station, I went to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. I was in the 82nd, so airborne unit. And then I deployed to Afghanistan with them. From there, re-enlisted, went to Germany and deployed to Egypt in the Sinai Peninsula while I was stationed in Germany, and then decided to put in my packet to be a volunteer recruiter. I used it more as, at the time, to take a little break from the infantry and just kind of spend more time with family and kind of slow down the pace a little bit. And I thoroughly enjoyed being a recruiter, so I converted to be a permanent recruiter. And so now that I'm here in Florida, I'm trying to stay here as long as I can.
Interesting. So you basically traveled, been all around the world. Was there any place you preferred more than the other, or was it more work and you couldn't like go around and see,
I think while I was being stationed in Germany was my favorite by far, just because we were right there in Europe. Me and my family, my wife and my son, who just turned 9 a couple of days ago, we were able to travel all over Europe. Essentially, while when you're over there, there's so many 3 and 4 day weekends that we would use Ryanair, which was just a cheap airline over there, and we would fly all over Europe. They would have deals all the time where it'd be round trip tickets for 50, 60 euros to go to Italy for, a round trip. And we would just fly to Italy and go to vacation there. I think my favorite place I visited would definitely be either Italy or when we went to Croatia.
Nice. I did have a trip to Europe for like 3 weeks with my family, but that was before COVID hit.
Yeah.
that changed, but everything's back to normal, I think, as much as possible. And now you're a permanent recruiter. Is it that you found a joy in it? what motivated you to make the change?
I think what really kind of clicked once I started figuring out how recruiting really worked. Like, it's not really about putting in as many people as you can. It's really, I find joy in it because I had kind of a troubled childhood, like, I was a troubled kid, like to get in a lot of trouble and do stupid things. And the Army was my way of starting a new life for myself, getting a second chance, starting over, and being financially stable. And so I really enjoy giving people that chance to start over or, achieve their dreams and their goals. Even if it's just go to college and have a way to pay for it and not have to take out student loans and be buried in, student loan debts. I find that, it's enjoyable to help people out along the way.
I completely understand. I finished my master's degree and I had I think it was maybe 45,000 debt. I paid it off, but it's easier if Uncle Sam helps you pay it off than
absolutely.
But then the debt versus the income, like when you have a master's, at least I'm from Puerto Rico, and over there the pay doesn't. A teacher over there makes like 2,700 a month, basically. That was my salary. It all went when child support and this and that, but things happen for a reason. But yeah, being able to pay off your student loans or not enter into a student loan debt is a big plus. I just had before this Facebook Live, we had another one that we had a student who has now she has her car paid off, and she said exactly the stability, the now she can afford a house, and now she can start creating a future for her and her family. That's a big plus. Last time we spoke, you did tell me something about the two people who were in basic. I don't know if you remember that you said one of them wanted to quit and you then let them quit.
Yeah.
The person stayed, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. They both stayed. Actually, I talked to one of the girls' fathers, came in my office about 2 weeks ago. And she was the one that just did not want to be there. She was homesick, felt like, she missed home. It was a mistake. I talked to her dad talked to her, and then so she stuck it out. She actually graduated on the 11th of basic training, and she's on the AIT now. And when her dad went to the graduation, he was like, she's completely different. She's more confident. She's happier. And like, this was a great thing for her. So like, I'm glad she stuck it out and she listened to everybody and didn't just quit because she was homesick. So she's definitely happy that she, powered through it.
Nice. Something that you probably know it, but I've never heard about it. Have you ever heard about the sandbox? Have you ever heard? The person who told us before is that now, instead of sending letters, people can use an app called Sandbox. And
oh no, I did not know that.
Well, maybe I hope it's accurate. But basically, it's like a card, and you can write a letter to a person, but then instead of sending out the letter, it sends out like a fax. So they'll print it out for them. It's a service. When she got to basic, they gave her that information. I can ask her more information and let you know in case you want to.
Yeah, I would love to know that. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. But yes, so even though you're located in Florida, if a person has doubts, you can help them, and they can actually enlist if they're graduated. If they're not,
absolutely. So I can help out with anybody, even if they are high school students. If they have questions, feel free to, they can reach out to me, because I've been in recruiting long enough, and I've been to a couple of different, recruiting schools, while I've been out on here, and I know recruiters in almost every state. So if
you could maybe
help them,
where to go.
I can put them in contact with someone that will actually help them the way they need help, instead of just trying to push them through the funnel.
I do have your personal number. Could you give me your not the personal, the number they can contact you?
Yeah, it's 727-439-2866.
Okay, and you prefer text or call or
Either
either?
one's fine.
And again, just to be sure I have it right, 727-439-2866, right?
Yep, that's correct. And then if someone does call me, if I don't answer, just shoot me a text with with their name and just a quick summary of, if they have questions, whatever, and I'll get back to them as soon as I can.
It's always good, first and last name, maybe an email, and let them know that I'm interested in joining. I want an orientation. I live here, I live there, the state where you live in. But yes, I'll definitely. Great. So I have that written down at the end. It's also going to be in the description of the live. If there's any questions, students can start shooting it out, and I can start making them. And I do know there has been, this is 2022. If somebody's seeing this in the future, this is 2022. So I do know that there have been a few big changes regarding tattoos. If you can talk a little bit about that. I know a lot of people have asked me personally, and I tell them, ask a recruiter.
Yeah. So the changes actually just happened like last month. So what the changes are is you are now allowed to have one ring finger tattoo on each hand. You're also allowed to have a tattoo on the tops of your hands as well as your palm. But the tattoos on your hand itself cannot be no bigger than 1 inch.
Very small.
So it's very small. And then you're allowed to have tattoo behind the ear as well. It can't be no bigger than 1 inch, and it can't go in front of your earlobe. So it's fine if it's going, up and down behind your ear. It just can't be coming in front of your earlobe. You're allowed to have a tattoo on the back of your neck now, and it can't be no bigger than 2 inches. What are the other ones? You can have as many tattoos as you want between the fingers, as long as when you close your hand and make a fist, you can't see any of the tattoos.
And the tattoo in the back, is it that it's visible up to 1 inch, or is it that it cannot be big? You know what I mean? Because there might be one.
It can be 2 inches on the neck, so it can be essentially what they're talking about above the collar.
I got you.
If it's visible
above 2 inches above the collar is the maximum.
Yeah.
Okay.
2 inches.
Got you. Okay. But this is something that's constantly changing. So if somebody sees this video, and I'm going to later edit it and post it on YouTube, if somebody sees this video in the future, all you need to know is they're much, much more flexible with the tattoo policy. If you have any of these, it'll probably, they can't do, I don't know if, can they do backsies? Like, can they say, now we revert, or you know what I mean?
No. So if that does happen, so back when I think it was 2014, they changed the tattoo regulations to where you couldn't have any tattoos that would show in your summer PT uniform. So essentially anything that would go past a short sleeve shirt. So like my tattoos would be out of regulations, but if you had them before the regulation, you were grandfathered in. Okay. And then also to kind of go back to the new tattoos, if people do have tattoos like on their hands, for instance, I deal with it a lot. Yes, the regulation says 1 inch. If you have tattoos that are bigger than that,
you can ask waiver.
Yeah, don't just can't count yourself out, still reach out, because we can try to get waivers for them.
Okay. So the important thing is don't go get the laser thing until you
talk to a recruiter first.
Until you check, because it might be waiverable. Okay. That's a good point. And you, obviously the policy just changed, but with your experience, once this is in, you'll know what's going to be waiverable and what's not.
Yeah. So because it just happened, we're still essentially we're sending up everything and anything that we get to see if we can find, to look for the trends on what they're saying no to, what they're wavering and stuff like that. So as time goes on, we'll have a better idea of what that border looks like on what's waiverable and what's not.
Perfect. And regarding the scores, is it because I know Navy made a change for a moment, it was 26. And Army per se, has there been any change, or still Cat 4 and and a flurry, FLRI for the foreign students. Those two programs are the main ones, or is there anything new regarding on that?
Yeah. So there's really been no changes as far as that goes. It's still, you have your Cat 4 program. That depends on the time, if it's open or not. So that, it's always varying. Obviously Flurry is always open. It hasn't, since I've been out, it's never been closed. Since I've been out recruiting in 2017, it hasn't changed. And then, it's still a 31 is the minimum score.
I have seen more bonuses.
Yes.
Well, I've seen, this is all through Facebook, social media. I see that they say this new bonus. So obviously that changes. But right now it's still there.
So right now, the one that I'm sure everyone's probably seeing from all different recruiters is the $50,000. That is if they're shipping before the end of August.
Okay.
And then it also depends on what their ASVAB scores are. But yeah, so still the $50,000 if you're shipping before the end of August.
Okay. And so I need to ask, I don't know if you can go into detail or if you even know, are these incentives for the tattoo policies? Obviously nowadays, everybody has a tattoo, like so many people have tattoos.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing they're modernizing it, but the bonuses and the flexibility on tattoo policies, does it have to do anything with less people joining because of the circumstances, because of the COVID thing, and because of the potential war? Does that have anything to do, or you wouldn't know?
No, I don't think that has anything to do with it. Especially when it comes to like the tattoo policies, this has been something they've been talking about changing them for years.
Okay.
It's been in the works with everything, all the new policies and changes. They don't come quick. It takes months and years for them to, come up with how it's going to work out and what they're going to, what the verbiage is going to be. So I don't think it has anything to do with, the current, current events going on. And I think especially with the tattoos, tattoos are becoming so common, like you just said, with everyone. You can go to the hospitals.
1 second, Bove, sorry. Bove.
Yeah.
Sorry, my Latin thing. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I get it all the
time. The students who are sending the questions, keep on sending them at the end. We don't want to ruin the flow. Well, I just ruined it, but we'll get to some of them the most we can. I'm sorry, you can continue.
Oh yeah. So like when it comes to tattoos, like I was saying, tattoos are becoming so common with just culture today, is that you can go to hospitals and doctors have tattoos and all, where, 10, 15 years ago, that was unseen.
I come from a Christian, like my mom is really Christian. My grandma was a co-pastor. They're really Christian. So in Puerto Rico, where I live in, like you might see a Christian with tattoos, but that was if he got them before being Christian. It's just not normal. And here in the church I go with my wife in Florida, it's so normal. Like people just get tattoos. They don't. It's just a different mindset, and it's just so different. But that's something that a lot of people are getting, and I would say it would be discriminating not to accept them.
Yeah,
to a sense, to a certain sense, because there are obviously you can't have gang tattoos or racist
no gang tattoos, no sexual affiliated tattoos, stuff like that.
I had a question also. I've heard people, I don't know if it's true, but I've heard some people tell me that they're trying to petition beards. Have you ever heard of this? That they're trying to get some type of beards? No?
It's been an ongoing thing. Back when we had Sergeant Major Daly was the Sergeant Major of the Army, he made one comment about beards, talking about it, and ever since then, like everyone's been wanting them. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I would love to be allowed to grow out my beard again. I don't see it happening.
Not in a bunch of years. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, there is the special cases where like you can get like a religious accommodation, if for stuff like that. Or
medical, right?
Or medical. So like, depending on like if if you get really bad, like you break out really bad, like I have actually one of the recruiters that works in my company. He's got a beard. It's not full on beard. Like there's still regulations to it for facial hair. Yeah, but it still needs to be upkept and trimmed and all. But if you break out a lot, like you can get a medical profile stating that you can't be clean shaven. So there's certain exceptions to it, but just to kind of, you can't just, not anyone and everyone can go out and grow a beard now.
Gotcha. Same thing with hair, right? Is the hair also supposed to be certain length?
Yeah. Same thing applies there.
I see. I have a student who's a recruiter, and she's actually from Florida. I'm not going to say her name, but think she's in Pensacola. Not sure, but she told me that the numbers were a little down. Have you seen that? Do you see it normal?
Definitely, I think it's gone down, and I really just think it's just not I just think it's a generational thing. Like not a lot of kids in high school. It's not a lot of them want to serve, or they're not around a lot of people that have been in. So they don't have that, that service the country kind of like growing up with the upbringing of being in a military family. And so they don't know anything about the military. So it's really just, I think, a cultural thing more than
circumstances of things.
Yeah.
But you're not focused on numbers. You just focus on whoever walks in, whoever contacts you, you give them a good orientation, you tell them, you clarify their doubts, and then, they can make their own decisions.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I tell everybody I work with, I personally do not care if you join or don't join, because it's your life. I go home every night the same way, whether I put someone in or I don't. I get paid the same paycheck, no matter who if I put in 100 people or I put in 0 people, I get paid the same amount. So at the end of the day, my whole goal is just to help out everyone that I do talk to, and anyone that's interested in joining, giving them as much knowledge and much information as possible, and for them to make up their own decision. And
but there are requirements of numbers you have to meet, right? Or am I wrong?
Yes and no. So yes, the Army has its end strength that the government and the Army or the military in general says, this is what we need to be mission effective. And then that gets kind of divvied down until it gets to the recruiting office level on, this is what we need from you. There's no real punishment if we don't put that many. If we need to put in 10 people and we put in 2, there's no punishment if we don't make it. It's just we didn't make that, and then at the end of the day, we might have only put in 2, but another office that might have been on for 10 might have put in 15, and so it kind of averages out, balances out across the country.
Gotcha. Do you want to go with questions, or you wanted to talk about something else?
We can go with questions, depending if we have a lot of them.
I have about 7. I haven't looked at them. Okay, so this person really wants to be special forces, because he mentioned a similar question in the Spanish live. Okay. I got Jan Rodriguez. He says, any recommendations to complete the Q course for special forces? I think, if you can give him any recommendations on how to complete the special forces Q course.
Yeah. So before I kind of get into the recommendations on that, just make sure that you have to be at least 21 in order to go special forces. Okay. So as long as you're 21, then and you meet all the requirements, you're good to go. As far as recommendations, the biggest advice that I can give anybody is that it's a mental game. They're not going to physically do anything to you that's going to kill you. It's all mental. If you just tell yourself, I'll quit tomorrow, and then tomorrow comes around, just tell yourself, I'll quit tomorrow, and just keep telling yourself that, you'll make it day by day, and you'll make it through. Be a team player. don't quit on yourself, push yourself as hard as you can. They want to push you to your breaking point. That's the whole goal, is to get you to your breaking point to see what you do from there. If you keep pushing yourself, you're not only going to learn more about yourself and learn that you might be stronger than you think you are, physically and mentally, but you'll make it. Like, that's the best thing I can say as far as making through special forces. Obviously, when it comes to physical, make sure that, just work out as much as you can, do as many workout, do push-ups, sit-ups, go for jogs, 30, 60s, not necessarily just go on long distance run, because that's not going to really help with your cardio per se, but doing like 30, 60s where you sprint for 30 seconds, walk for a minute, sprint for 30 seconds, and do that for, 2-3 miles. That'll help with your cardio a lot more, because that's going to be the biggest thing that will get people, is the amount of cardio that you do while you're there.
Yeah, sometimes people, not especially special forces, but sometimes people will go to CrossFit. I actually say I don't have anything against CrossFit, but if you hurt yourself before basic, it's not good. I always tell people, run, push-ups, maybe squats, maybe sit-ups, but just body type of exercises, and mostly running. I don't know if you have any other advice for that, or if you do actually recommend, because I don't recommend CrossFit, because some exercise might actually hurt you. Or a normal gym, or lifting weights, normal gym. Yeah.
CrossFit is great if you have proper form. If you don't have the proper form and techniques, you are going to hurt yourself. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you don't want to, hurt yourself trying to get in shape for it. Just simply going on, jogs and runs and stuff like that, taking breaks to do push-ups and sit-ups, or do different kind of, air squats, any kind of body exercises that's going to help you. And at the end of the day, once you go to basic training, you don't go straight to the Q course. You're going to go to basic training first. The whole point of basic training is to get you in better shape, learn how to be a soldier, walk, talk, and act like a soldier. And you're going to be in better shape once you get out of basic training. So, just doing the bare minimum, cardio and push-ups, sit-ups before you get in, and then, the PT you're going to do while you're basic training, it will tenfold help you actually going through the Q course.
Whenever you wanna you take the recruits to train Bove, let me know. I'll join. I like running. I like doing all that stuff.
Sounds good.
In Puerto Rico, when I used to give live sessions, we would actually go to the beach with the students, and we would do like a type of a fit camp. It was a nice thing. I do miss that of the live sessions. I prefer online because I can work from home, but I do miss that type of bonding. Somebody asked me, do you recommend finish airborne first, or, well, I don't think, I'm going to ask the question as they send it, but the question is, you recommend finish airborne first or Ranger? I think Ranger's harder, right?
So if you're talking, it depends on if they're talking about RASP, the Ranger Assessment Selection Program, or Ranger School, because they're two different things. So if you're talking about RASP, which kind of is what it sounds like, because they're talking about airborne school, you're not going to go to Ranger School while you're in training. So I'm assuming they're talking about RASP. You have to go to RASP first. Back when I joined in 2010, it used to be airborne. You used to go to basic training, airborne school, and then you would go to RASP. They changed it. So before, you don't go to airborne school until after you graduate from RASP.
But also, either the recruiter or somebody there will tell them which to go first. When will he have the opportunity to ask this over there, or is this something that he needed to know before? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So that'll all be in the contract as well. Like when they do enlist and they pick their job and all, their training path is already like laid down. In the temporary reservation that the recruiters can print out with them. It shows them, this is where you're going to basic training. This is your job training, your AIT. And then if you're going there, if they get airborne in their contract, or if they get RASP in their contract, You're going to go here for a RASP and then here for airborne school. So that'll all be laid out and they'll be able to kind of show them the dates and stuff.
Perfect. And I have another question. It's the same person, just in case.
Okay.
Because he's this is it follows the same flow. He's asking about Q course, if sniper school is part of the Q course.
No, it's not part of the Q course. They're going to learn all about the weapons and stuff, depending on, that's more MOS specific. So like if they get put, in a sniper section, obviously, yes, they're going to go to sniper school. They're going to learn how to, be a sniper. And then they could also send them to, the squad designated marksmanship course as well.
Is everybody in special forces a sniper, or is that okay?
No,
so
they're not.
So there's like a specific task that you train for. You become a specialist in a specific task.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So essentially, yeah. So there's different jobs, obviously, and then I wouldn't say you might not specialize in one specific thing, but like if that's your assignment on that team, that's your role while you're on that team. And then if you move to another team, you might have a different role.
Okay. So there might be trainings after you are like.
Oh yeah. So once you if you make it through selection and Q course and you actually go to group and you go SF, once you're on a team, you're going to be going to any and every school you could possibly want to go to. They get all top-notch schooling and they get whatever they want as far as schools go.
Okay. And I don't know if you know this off the top of your head, but if you could give me a rough estimate, what % of people who apply for special forces actually are able to complete it? Is there a %? Or
I don't know the percentage off the top of my head. I will say the majority of the people that don't make it would be in the selection process. Like once they're going through selection.
Okay, so they probably know. They're very selective in the pre-selection.
Yes.
So they don't pre-select people who they're not pretty sure they're going to complete it.
Because in selection, there's also a peer eval portion as well, where your peers that you're actually there with, they all rank each other on, and then they have to like list like details on why this person's at the top, why this person's at the bottom, and they don't want to hear because I don't like them. They have to put reasons. If someone's in their bottom, bottom 3, bottom 5, whatever they tell them they need to put details, they want actual details on why, and then all the instructors, the cadre will look at that and see, if there's a trend on who's in the bottom. And you might make it through all the training, but if you're not a team player, you only care about yourself and you're not trying to help out the team, probably going to get peered out.
Okay. Then I have a question, and this person is a green card holder. The question is, if you know off the top of your head, what are the type of MOSs that they offer people who are green card holders that they don't have the security clearance? Because I did tell her that there's only going to be because of my experience with students that apply for that, normally it's a 4 to 5 jobs only, but I don't know them. I don't know if I'm wrong, if there are more jobs.
There are more jobs. There's a lot more jobs. So essentially they qualify as long as they have the ASVAB scores. They qualify for any job that does not require secret clearance or any kind of clearance, just because you can't have a clearance unless you are a U.S. citizen. So they qualify for every job that doesn't require clearance. It's just a matter of what jobs are actually available at the time.
So it's more than 5 that I get.
Yeah, no, there's a lot more than 5.
Sorry.
Yeah, there's a lot more than 5.
I scared the student. I'm like, just 5.
Yeah, there's probably, I couldn't tell you a number off the top of my head, but I would say definitely in the 30s.
My error, that person actually joined the Coast Guard. And I'm guessing maybe he just told me that they offered him 4 jobs or something like that. Do you have any examples that that don't have security clearance? Or better off, when you pass the ASVAB, you can contact him or the person can contact you, or unless you want to say a few examples.
Yeah, that off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you right now. when they pass the ASVAB, if they can send me their scores, I have an Excel spreadsheet that I can plug their scores in, and it will show me every job the Army offers and if they qualify for it or not, just based off the ASVAB scores. Again, that doesn't mean if they qualify for the job that it's going to be available.
It has to be open.
Yeah, it has to be open. So I can show them every single job that they actually can qualify for.
But there's more than 5. You're good.
There's a lot more than 5.
Yeah. How many? The Army has over 100 jobs, right? So
there's over 150 different jobs.
150 jobs, probably more than 5. We're good.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see if I have. Well, see, that's why I always tell students I try to give the best orientation I can, but I'm not part of the military. All I know how to do is pass the ASVAB. That's why you always, I'll give you advice, but the ultimate saying should always be your recruiter, because they actually are updated with all the changes. Like everything he explained about the tattoos, that was a month ago. All I knew was they're more flexible with tattoos. I didn't know about it here. I didn't know about only the ring fingers. I didn't know it had to be specifically here. It couldn't be here. So all these things are, plus there's going to be things that you're going to find out that are waiverable that I would never know how to tell them. So it's always better, and that happens a lot with friends. A friend who's in the military tells you something, like when I was going to join, I have keratoconus. And somebody told me, they do a simple test. So I thought, you remember those school tests where they would cover your eye? That's what I was expecting to get in MEPS. No, it's a very good test, and they send you to a specialist, and they see if you really have any condition. And so it's always best to talk to the recruiter. So I have Justin asking, can I keep my civil job if I ever join the National? Well, he's not National Guard. He might give us insight. Can I keep my civil job if I ever join the National Guard? Like, I know you need to take a MLS when you take the ASVAB, but there are possibilities that you can keep your job as a civilian. Well, in your case, it will be reserve, right?
Yeah, so it's the same thing for the reserves and the National Guard. The way it would work is they can't fire you. It's called a military leave of absence. So obviously you have to go to basic training, your job training. All you do is provide your employer your enlistment documents. You're showing them like, hey, look, I enlisted. This is when I leave, and this is when I'm projected to be back. Also keep in mind that dates could get pushed to the right, not so much the left, but like your training might say you start, let's just say for tomorrow, for example, for AIT, you've already made it through basic training. You're supposed to start tomorrow for AIT. You might be in a holdover for a week, which obviously delays the time you're coming home another week. So the date can get pushed to the right a little bit as far as when you're going to return, but it's just a military leave of absence. They can't fire you. And when you come back, they have to either give you your position back or a position of equal status and pay. So let's just say you worked at a hospital and you're a trauma nurse. You can't go to training, come back, and they're like, well, you're going to be a cook in the cafeteria now. Like, no, you have to get either your position back or equal status and same or better pay.
Okay. And that's obviously, it's the government giving you the authorization. So you're
that's a federal law. So
it's valid for 1 or 2 years, you said. How long is that leave valid for that they give?
So that's just while they're in their training. Because obviously if they're going National Guard or Reserve, they're only going to do their job training. The longest AIT that we have is a year long.
Okay, so
and
it will be for a year.
Couple jobs is for a year for the reserve, and I'm sure National Guard's not going to be much different.
Okay.
And so so at most they might be gone for a little over a year for their AIT and their job and their basic training.
Perfect. So Sarai Lopez asked something, but it's going to vary depending on if you're married or not. But he's going to answer better. After the training begins, how long I have to wait to start living outside of the, she said academy. I don't know if that means base, but how long does she have to wait to be living outside?
So essentially once they're finished with their training, because they're going to live in the barracks, the bays with everyone that they're in training with throughout their entire time in training. through basic training. And then once they go to AIT, they will go to wherever their AIT is, and they're going to be living in the dorm, in the barracks there. Now, once they're done with their training and they get to their first assignment, their first duty station, immediately, they can, if they're married, then they can either live in on-post housing, or they can live off post if they don't want to live on base. If they're single, they're going to live in the barracks. And to be honest, the barracks aren't that bad. I was single when I first came in. You're going to have your own bedroom. You're going to have a roommate who has their own room. You just share a common area. Think of the barracks life as like a college dorm. It's like dorm living. Yeah. You have your own bedroom, you have your own space to go to. And then, you can shut the door and not see your roommate if you don't want, or you can be best friends and hang out with other people. And there's hundreds of people there.
I would have thought that once you finish training, they might allow people to pay for their own house, but is there a reason why they do this, if you know, or that's just how it is?
So the only time that you can start living, if you're like, for example, like obviously I'm married, but if I was single right now and I was living on a military installation, once you become an E6, you can get the housing allowance without dependent.
Oh,
and so, yeah, so that's just, but anyone E5, E1 to E5, you're just, that's just how it is.
Like a benefit they give people who are E6 and above.
Yeah. Because essentially once you're in E6, you're in the regular Army, not recruiting, you're going to be a squad leader. At a minimum, you're going to be either a squad leader, you could be a platoon sergeant. So they don't want you living in the housing with the people that you're in charge with. You might be living in the barracks with 30 people that you're their boss. So they don't want you to, fraternize with them. So that's why they give them that ability to live off base.
I guess because they want to create that, how do I say this, that separation, I guess.
Yeah, that work-life balance.
Yeah. I have a person who asked me, I know the answer, but I'm gonna let you answer. You're probably gonna answer better than me. Ivan asked, how long does he have to wait in order to retake the ASVAB? And he wrote, it's his third chance, I guess.
So if it's going to be his third time, when he takes it, then it would only be the 30 days, because you have to wait 30 days after the first and the second time. If he's already taking it three times, then it would be 6 months.
Yeah. So, and going back to something, sorry, that you said, I'll forget. If there is ever a program available for you to qualify with less than 31, your recruiter will tell you, because they want to get you in. Because some people say, well, how do I know? He'll let you know. If there's any program that you can get, he wants to get you in, obviously. If you qualify and there's a program, he'll let you know. About the test, now I have a question. So you take it, you don't pass, you wait 30 days. You take it, you don't pass, you wait 30 days. You take it, you don't pass, you wait 30 days. Well, then you have to wait the 6 months. If you don't take it and you don't pass the 6 months, is it 2 years or is it another 6 months?
Just another 6 months.
Okay. Is it sometimes I've had people tell me that the recruiter told them it was more longer, 6 months. Maybe the recruiter taking them.
6 months is the longest time frame.
Okay, so there's never a 2 year time frame.
No.
Okay, so
the only thing with 2 years, the only thing that with the ASVAB scores at 2 years is their scores are good for 2 years. That's it.
Yeah. Maybe he just wanted to reset everything. I guess that's why they told him that. So yes. And I have one more question from our friend Jan, who wants to be a sniper. What's the minimum in the shooting range to join the sniper school? I don't know if he knows this off the top.
I do not know that off the top of my head. I can definitely look into it and get the answer for him. I've never been, and I don't know anyone that's actually been to sniper school.
Okay. And I have a question about cyber school. is this cybersecurity or are there other cyber stuff? The question is, any advice you can give me for the best cyber school? Is that there a different MOS for cyber school?
There's a couple different MOSs. So with that, it comes down to there is another test that they have to take. So if they are interested in some of the cyber jobs, like if it's like especially cybersecurity, they have to take another test other than the ASVAB is like, well, ASVAB obviously, but then another test as well.
Is it like language or something like that?
No, essentially what it does is test them on their knowledge of cybersecurity. So it's one of those things that if you don't already have a background in it, like I'm going to school for cybersecurity. So if you don't already have a background in it, or at least a basic understanding of it,
you might not pass.
You're going to have a hard time passing that test. So you might want to study for it.
Is it a one-time test, or you like sometimes they'll put a limit on attempts per life? Is there a limit or no? If you know,
no, it's the same. It's 6 months? I'm not mistaken, I believe it's the same way as the ASVAB is.
Okay, and now I'm curious because I didn't know this. Do they offer this test before you join, or is this when you're already enlisted?
No, so you can do it before. Now that also depends. Well, you can do it before. The only thing that depends is different MEPs you would have to get with the recruiter for the MEPs that you're going to go to, because different MEPs have their testing schedule on what days. So for example, Tampa MEPs, we only have our it's considered a special test. They only do them on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Okay.
So it depends on which MEPs that they're working with on what day they offer those tests, because they have to have somebody that's certified to administer that test actually working that day.
And I have a question on this, the cybersecurity test. Because I know there's a test and it's related to Air Force, and it has to do with language, or is it computer language, that students have told me it's the D-Lab, they call it, the D-Lab. The D-Lab, there are books on Amazon that you can practice for the test, and that I've had students practice and actually pass it. But I just wanted to know if you knew if there were any, if you knew the name of the test, or if you knew if there's any books out there so they can that person who doesn't have the background can at least have something to see if you can pass it.
Yeah, there is books out. It's the because there's two that are similar. I'll look it up here in a second. I think it's the ECLT is the one for that. I'm going to look it up while I'm talking to you, because we have two special tests that are like almost the same acronyms. I want to make sure I'm telling you the right one.
Because ECO is the English test. ECLT might be the one that
hold on. No, that's the English test that I'm thinking of.
The ECLT? Yeah, English test. Okay. If not, you can always, if you can during the week, you let me know, and I'll write it I'll just pin the comment in the post.
Yeah, no, I'll let you know. I'm trying to remember what it is off the top of my head. I always get the two mixed up and I can't remember what it is now.
Yeah, if we find the name of the test, it'll be pinned in the comment, at least if we find any resource to practice it for anybody who's interested in that. It is something that is high in demand. I have an acquaintance who does cybersecurity for Amazon. And it's crazy because she has 3 computers working at the same time, and she's looking at what's occurring. I don't understand, but she was doing her thing with 3 computers. She had 3 monitors, basically, the setup. And it's something that's obviously, if you get into cybersecurity, it's something that's always going to keep changing. Because it's something.
No, absolutely. It's one of those jobs, not to compare it to the medical field, but it's kind of like the medical field where you always have to be studying. There's always new things. It's always, with every single update to any software, there's going to be flaws in it. And then you need to figure out, how to fix them, what they are. So it's definitely something you're constantly learning.
And that's a field. There's a lot of fields like that you can transition after you finish your term. That I met an acquaintance who does, I'm not sure if it's cybersecurity, but he works for the government, but as a freelancer. that there's a lot of jobs that you can transition to working
Oh
a
yeah.
job, and then his company specifically wanted ex-military because they already had the background, the security clearance. So they didn't have to invest. He told me it was like 100,000 to get security. I don't know if it's true.
Yeah, it
He
is.
told me
Yeah.
it's very expensive for a company to get you the security clearance. And then anybody who's working that kind of things, they need the security. So they save, hiring an ex-military person, they save 100 grand basically. And they already have the discipline, the structure. If
Yeah, you
you
have all the
want to
traits
abandon
that
that,
any employer would love to have. Plus,
is that,
you're saving a company money, so it's like
yeah.
you're checking every box they could possibly want.
Is that something that you are contemplating transitioning into cybersecurity after you finish your
Yeah,
term?
so that's definitely what I'm doing. So I'm working. I only got a couple more classes to finish up my bachelor's.
Sorry, Scott. I know we spoke about this. I remember your
Oh
answer. I just
yeah.
want the people to know because we did talk about this before. I don't want them to think, "Hey, forgot."
Yeah, no. Yeah, so I only have a couple more classes to finish my bachelor's in cybersecurity, and I had no intentions on going for my master's. And then I got bored one night, started doing some research, found a couple articles, and found some articles stating that by 2026, there's going to be, they were projecting like 40 something percent of open higher level security jobs, cybersecurity jobs. And if you had your master's degree, like right now, jobs are starting, like starting salary is like 200,000 plus with signing bonuses. So I was like, definitely going to get my master's because I would love to get out making 200,000 plus a year.
The more, the better.
Yeah.
And you did tell me that you planned, if I'm not mistaken, that you plan first to work for a company, get the practice, get that under your belt, and then maybe have your own company, unless you land the 200.
Yeah. So essentially, like what my plan is now is to, once I finish up my time in the military, work for a company doing cybersecurity. That way I can at least get the work experience, build the relationships, and then branch off, maybe after a year, 2 years, however it goes, start my own company. And my son will be graduated from high school, going to college once I retire. And I would love nothing more than to buy a nice RV, travel the country with my wife, and work from my RV. Like that's what I want to do when I get out.
It's something that I obviously, because of what I do, I know a lot of military personnel, and it's the beauty of obviously not every experience is the same, but I know a lot of people who are in the military who retire young, and when they retire young, most of them, well, they'll keep on working on other projects, or they'll keep on working on other goals. And that's not something you get out of the civilian world. A lot of people retire at 50. You're retiring at 45, 42, young, if you entered young.
Yeah. And depending on the career field you're in, you might, in the civilian world, you might be working till you're 60 just to be able to possibly retire. And then even then, you might not even be able to kind of live the life that you want.
Yeah, whereas, it all depends on the salary you were making, how much you save,
how much you're putting in your retirement and all that. Yeah. So I mean, it's definitely, I'll be 41 when I get out, and it's great. Like I'm already living comfortable with, even if I didn't work and I lived off my retirement and everything, I'd have a comfortable life, but I want to enjoy my life and be able to kind of travel and the country, the world, and, go out and explore and do all the things that I've, dreamed of doing and having fun with my wife before. I don't want to just have a comfortable life. I want to go out and do anything and everything we could possibly want and not have to worry about, money.
Yeah, it's easy. It's hard to come by, and then it's easily spent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so let me just look here because I deviated. Let me see. Okay, so Okay, so we did talk about this, but somebody might have joined a little bit later in the live session. This is going to be recorded. We did talk about the bonuses, but we'll go into this question in case you want to expand. Somebody asked me, any updates on the sign-on bonus for the military, or is it still usually based on the career path you choose? So the 50,000, is it certain jobs?
Yeah, so it is. It's not so much just specific jobs. There is some that don't, like some jobs that don't come with a bonus. Essentially, most jobs are coming with bonuses. They're quick ship bonuses or the 50K bonus that are leaving before August or before the end of August. Again, that also depends on your ASVAB scores. It's not an exact number, but it's usually what I've noticed is if you score above a 50, that's when you start unlocking more of the bonuses. And then there's certain jobs that rarely ever come with a bonus. Like, for example, the one I can think off the top of my head is military police. I rarely ever see that come with a bonus just because most people that pick MP want to go into law enforcement when they get out. So they look at it as like a good transition, and all the certificates and stuff that they get while they're in, they don't really have to incentivize people to choose the job because everyone, wants to do it in the first place.
I had a question here. At least for me, I always, when people ask for my advice, I tell them it's a happy medium. Don't focus only on the bonus.
No.
If it has a bonus, obviously it's great, but you have to like what you select. So I always say, if there's something you really, really like and it has a smaller bonus than something that you don't like and has a big bonus, go with the smaller one. Go with what you want to do. That's my advice. I don't know if you have a different advice.
So it depends if you're going active duty or reserve. So if you're going active duty, completely agree with you. Obviously, if it's nice to have the bonus, like the bonus is always going to be nice. Now, if you have no interest in the job whatsoever and you know you're going to hate it, is it really worth it? Because you're going to get this bonus, but you're going to be miserable every day going, doing your job. And then in turn, that's going to make you want to get out after your first contract because you're like, I hate the Army. This sucks. This job is not what I want to do at all. When if you would have just picked the job that you really wanted, then, you might actually be happier. Like when I first got in, I signed up for 5 years and got a $5,000 bonus. And then my first re-enlistment when I went to Germany, I only got, I think it was like 15 grand for my bonus. But then this last re-enlistment, they just gave me a $46,000 bonus. So like you might not get that big bonus coming in.
Now you can do your masters.
Yeah. So I was kind of going backwards. So you might not get that big bonus coming in, depending on the job you choose, but that's not saying that you can't get it if you stay in or not.
Is there, well, obviously there's no always, but normally there is a re-enlistment bonus incentive, right?
Yeah, there normally is. It just fluctuates on how big the bonus is.
It's easier to have somebody who's already trained, who's already there, than to get somebody new, is what I think, right?
Yeah. And then going back to the other part, like my other advice I give people is if they're trying to go reserve, since it is only 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks out of the summer, and you have a civilian career that you're in, I always tell people one of two things. If you're joining the reserve for college and you have a specific, career field or a degree field that you're going for, if you can find a job in the reserve, if we have a job in the reserve that's available, that lines up, then that's going to help you get a lot of your courses knocked out because you're going to get your military training as college credits. So you might knock out some of the classes for your degree without having to take them. Or pick the job that has the best incentives because it is only 1 weekend a month. So I always tell people, if I told you to work at McDonald's 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks out of the summer, and I was going to pay for your college tuition 100%, give you a nice sign-on bonus and money in your pocket every month, like, would you do it? And 9 out of 10 people say yes.
It makes sense. And I've never thought about that because that's more of a complete answer. I always think of I'm only thinking of active. I'm not thinking reserve. That
Yeah.
it's part time. It's only 1 weekend. And how long is it in summer? It's like it's 1 weekend a month, and
One
then
weekend a month, and then 2 weeks out of the summer.
2 weeks out. Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah, it's
and
more bearable if you don't
yeah,
like it. It's
yeah. And if you hate it, it's literally 1 weekend a month. Anyone can put up with anything for just a weekend out of the month to get all the incentives, because there's, depending on the jobs, like normally for the reserve, they incentivize the jobs that are, I guess, undesirable, the jobs that not a lot of people want to do. So like you can, if you're trying to get more money for college, depending on what college you're going to, and if it's more expensive, why not pick the job that gives you the most bang, the most money, the most, bang for your buck, and just put up with, a job you might not have any interest in.
Okay, I have an interesting question. We have to adapt it. Again, Justin, he's going to tell you reserve, Army Reserve. It's similar to National Guard, not exactly the same thing. You would have to contact a National Guard recruiter in the Army to know if it's the same. But he's asking, what are the benefits if my wife and I join the National Guard at the same time? If you know if it's similar to reserve, or if you want to talk about reserve.
For the same thing for reserve, National Guard. There's no real big benefit for being dual military, because you're still going to be getting that paycheck for the 1 weekend a month, the 2 weeks out of the summer, because National Guard does the same. It's the same time frame. You're both going to be getting paid active duty pay when you're in basic training and your job training. But as far as that goes, the only other benefit would be that you both have, you don't have to, like, only one of you guys have to do the health insurance for, the family, and the other one doesn't, but there's really no big benefit to both doing reserve or National Guard. Obviously is
there a bigger benefit if we're going active?
Yeah. Active duty is where there's more of the benefit, because you're both getting, one of you would be getting the housing allowance with dependent. The other one would only be getting half of the housing allowance. So you make, way more money being dual military if you're active duty versus being in the Guard or the reserve.
And question, if it were one of them active and the other one reserve, is it not much of a benefit, or is it still a better benefit than half and half,
Yes, I mean, I guess the only really benefit again would be that the person that's in the reserve wouldn't have to, can opt out of the health insurance for the reserve, because they don't need to pay for it because they're getting it through their spouse. If someone is going to go active duty and the other going to go reserve National Guard, I would tell them to lean towards the reserve, not just because that's what we recruit for, but because the National Guard, it's that state's National Guard. I have worked with people that were the spouse, one of them was going active duty, and they both were in the Guard. We got the one released to go into the active duty, and this was up in Ohio, and his wife, when she put in her request to transfer to where he got stationed, the Ohio National Guard denied it. So it was a whole ordeal trying to get her released. And just to get her to be allowed to move to, because if I'm not mistaken, I think he got stationed in Fort Hood. So he was down in Texas, she's up in Ohio, and she has to go there once every month. So if you're going to do where one state goes active and then your spouse goes either reserve or National Guard, I would say reserve, because it's the federal component. So it's too simple to transfer to another reserve unit in another state.
If one was active and the other one was reserve, they do have, because what you're saying, because they're married, they do try to put them together, or at least close driving distance.
So with the reserve, because it's, active and reserve, they're both, it's the federal components. So there's reserve units everywhere. So it's really simple to transfer someone from a reserve unit in Ohio and then transfer them down here to Florida, and you can transfer as many times as you want. Anytime your spouse would move to another duty station, you just transfer to that. And there's even reserve units. When I was stationed in Germany, there's Army reserve units that are in Germany. And so I knew guys that got out of active duty, joined the reserve in Germany. So they had like their dual citizenship. So they were still in the Army Reserves, serving the US while living in Germany full time.
John, I don't know if, let me see something. Okay. 1 second. Okay, John, I'm going to give you a little advice from the bottom of my heart. You can talk to the National Guard recruiter, get orientation, and talk to Bove later. He's going to treat you well. Hear both sides and make a choice, because the thing is, I'm not saying one is better than the other, but if you go National Guard, be sure you both want to be National Guard, because then if one of you wants to change, it's going to be more difficult. That's basically it. And if you want to go reserve, it's similar, but if later on one of you wants to transition to active duty, it's going to be much simpler to keep you guys together. But it's again, he's not going to force you to do anything. He's just going to maybe expand a little bit more, unless you already clarified your doubt. Yeah, it was Justin last night. Justin. Okay, so give me 1 second looking here. Okay, so somebody's asking about salary. Obviously, you don't know the tables by memory, and it's E1, E2, E3, E4 is going to be different salary. But the question is, what is the salary for the reserve, and how is the school work with that? So how going to school works with that, and how, if you can talk a little bit about the salary.
If they're talking about going to school, they're talking about like.
So the question is, what is the salary for a reserve person, and how does the school work? Like going to school, do they pay 100% tuition?
Oh, okay. So as far as the salary while in the reserve, when they're in training, they're on active status, so they're getting active duty pay. But once they get they finish all their training and they go to the reserve unit, I just tell people it's pocket money. You're only getting paid for the 1 week in a month, and then you're getting paid for the 2 weeks out of the summer, which you're getting paid again active because you're working for those 2 weeks. But it's depending on your rank. Again, I like you said, I do not memorize the tables off the top of my head. I have them on my desk so I can show people. But it's like $200 for the weekend. So you're only getting paid like maybe $200 a month while you're on for the reserve. Now, as far as school goes, that kind of goes back to when we were talking about, talking about the reserve and, pick the job that has the biggest incentives. Depending on where you want to go to college, there's a couple different options. I always tell people essentially most of your state colleges and universities, your public schools or public universities, I would say 95% of them are a part of the Yellow Ribbon program. So what that does is, let's just say keep it simple. Tuition is $300 a semester hour to go to that school. Well, if they're part of the Yellow Ribbon and you're using your military benefit to go to the school, they'll lower it to $250 a semester hour. So that way you can use your tuition assistance, which is the Army paying for it. That's not coming out of your GI Bill, your Select Reserve GI Bill. So your tuition assistance will cover the 16 semester hours. And the way I always tell people to use it, because you can't double dip, you can't use tuition assistance and the Select Reserve GI Bill simultaneously. So I always tell people use tuition assistance for one semester, and then the following semester use your Select Reserve GI Bill, and then just keep flip-flopping. That way you max out your tuition assistance. So that's free money that the Army is paying for your college, and you're stretching out your GI Bill. And then going back to the incentives, there's different there's kickers. They call it the GI Bill kicker, which is essentially anywhere, again, depending on the job and what incentives it come with, anywhere from $150 to $350 on top of the GI Bill. that they'll give the school every month for your schooling, as well as the student loan repayment program, if the job comes with that. If you have student loans already, as long as they're in your name and they're federal student loans, you can use the student loan repayment on those. If you do not have student loans, all it does is sit in your back pocket. So that way, if you do have to take out any student loans, again, I tell everyone, if you're going to take out student loans and you know you have the student loan repayment program, talk to the military advisors at your college, and they will explain to you in detail exactly what student loans the military will pay back and which ones they won't. So you can take out the student loans and you have, up to X dollar that you have student loan repayment program that will pay it off. So you can get up to 100% of your college degree paid for, even in the reserve. You just have to, it really comes down to what incentives you get with the job, and what school you want to go to. I can help people, if they want to see how it breaks down, I can, show them on paper and write it all down, take pictures, show it to them, whatever's easiest, and show them how it breaks down. Because with the reserve, same thing with the National Guard, the money comes from 10 different places and all, compounds together. So it's not one lump sum. Here's this dollar amount for college. It's here's this, and then here's some more of this. So it's a lot of different pockets you're pulling it from.
Nice. So that's something that whoever's interested in that can definitely contact you and help them with that.
Yeah.
And it's something that I didn't know. I remember when I was doing masters, I had a student who was out of the military and he was using the GI Bill, but I didn't know. Obviously, you've been in the system for 12 years. You've used the tuition, so you know what to do to maximize the benefits. But if you do things right, you should get almost everything paid off for.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I got one question. How long can you be in the military before retaking the ASVAB or change a career? So basically, they want to know if, let's say they take the ASVAB, they didn't get a high score, they want to change their MOS. How long do you have to wait to take the ASVAB again inside of the military? And then how long do you have to wait to actually change the MOS? It's always depends, but.
Yeah. So when you're in the military, you don't retake the full ASVAB again. So what it is, and I cannot remember what they changed the name to. Back when I was in the actual Army, I like calling it in the Army, because I don't really consider being a recruiter part of the Army, because I'm not nowhere near a military installation. So back when I was infantry, it was called the fast class. What it was you would go to a class. It was like 2 or 3 days out of the week for like a month. And that was your place of duty for the day. You were there until class got released. Once it released, you were done for the day. And what it does is they give you a portion of the ASVAB that raises your GT score. Because your GT score is really what unlocks a lot of different jobs for you. The actual ASVAB score itself, so let's say you get a 32. That score doesn't mean nothing once you get over a 31. That just means you're qualified to join the Army. It's your line scores that actually unlock the jobs for you. And the GT score being the one that unlocks most of the jobs.
I have a question. So let's say somebody wanted to transition to electronics after he joins, then he doesn't take the full ASVAB. He'll just take AR, PC, and WK, right?
Yep.
For GT.
Yeah.
So he couldn't change to an electronic job, or?
So you still can. So then once you're already in, there's different regulations for what requirements you have to meet initial entry versus being in the military already.
Okay.
So there's different requirements that the requirements for initial entry are different than what you need to have when you're already in.
Okay,
yeah.
I get you.
So he can still go for like an electronic job if they didn't qualify for it coming in, and that's what they want to go to. They can still get that.
Maybe do another type of test or take another type of classes, and then maybe with the GT score and that, or yeah. But also the change, once they train you, they're not going to change your MOS because they spend money, they invested time. There is an amount of time you should be in that MOS, right?
Yeah. So the way that works is essentially you're going to be in that job for that first contract. So let's say you sign a 3-year contract. At 2, once you've been in that, in the military for 2 years, you can re-enlist. Once you're 12 months, and that changes every now and then. Right now, it used to, when I first re-enlisted, it was 18 months is when you were eligible to re-enlist. It's now 12 months. When you re-enlist, you have a couple different options. You can either re-enlist for stabilization. So let's say you really like your job, you like the unit that you're in, the base that you're on, you can re-enlist to stay where you're at. You can re-enlist for a school. So let's say you really want to go to airborne school or sniper school. You can re-enlist to go do that. You can re-enlist for duty station of choice. So if you want to pick your next duty station, or you can re-enlist to change your MOS. And then once let's say they re-enlist, they go, I don't know, infantry, and they want to go do something in the electrical field. They can re-enlist at that 2-year mark, pick the job that they want, and then with their new contract, that starts that time. Once you start that or sign your re-enlistment contract, that's your new contract. It doesn't add on to your initial contract. It starts over. Okay. So then they would get a class date on when they're going to go to AIT, because you still have to go to the AIT again for whatever job you choose. And then they just re-enlist. They do the other job from there. So there's different scenarios on, we talk with people on what would best suit them to help them get where they want to be in the long term. For example, if someone does get a low ASVAB score and they're just trying to get their foot in the door, we'll try to tell them to pick the job, because there are some jobs that come with a 2-year enlistment option. And if that's the case, you're only in the job for a year, and then you re-enlist, 12 months later, and you do all the schooling, do the studying and all, get your scores up, and then pick the job you want. And you only have to put up with the job that you're in for a year and a half before you go to the AIT that you actually want to go to.
Perfect. So I do appreciate Mr. Bove, but I personally have to start cutting it short, because I told them it was going to be from 40 minutes to 1 hour. But I'm going to go with one question, because I do want to know what you have to say regarding this. Somebody, Jaime or James in English, is asking me if you've worked any waivers for a 40-year-old person. He's pushing the limit there, right? Unless they're prior service, that's the only way, right?
Yeah. So when they're 40, unless they're prior service, I put in one person that just turned 41 at the time, and that was because the only reason they approved him was because he was a green card holder. He just got his naturalization paperwork. He had 2 master's degrees and a PhD, and published a book. And then so we wrote this whole, applicant statement stating like, this is what he's done. It's not that he didn't want to join or he waited till this long to join. He had this, and this going on. He just became a citizen. And here's his accomplishments that he's done. So they did an age waiver for him. But unless you at 40, unless you have met, or unless you are prior service, or you have, certain circumstances, the chances of getting an age waiver for that are pretty slim to none.
Have you tried to submit other 40-year-old waiver, or 38 or 36? What's the maximum? Well, you just did a 41, but have you 36?
Yeah, 36. 36
is accepted?
Yeah. So the age, it is up to 36 is where we can do AGTPs for him now, or exception to policy. So we can do up to 36 now.
Okay. So James, sorry for the bad news. I think I'm not 100% sure, but he's going to have to check. Maybe Air Force or Navy might. Jane Merchant, if you want, you can message us through the Facebook page. And if you need a local recruiter, but it's very simple. Just type in Air Force locate recruiter near me or Navy locate recruiter near me. But if you can't find one, I can help you. I say this because they have a little bit, or Coast Guard Reserve. Coast Guard Reserve is actually 40. So there are still options. Maybe, I'm not 100% sure. Bove, I do appreciate you. You're a great person. You're invited from a house of coffee whenever you want to come. Just text me in the Spring Hill area whenever you want to take the drive. Everything but the latte art.
Yeah, sounds good.
Be included. I appreciate your time. I am going to put his contact number at the end of the live. And we do have the cybersecurity name of the test. We're going to try to find it. If we find it during the week, it'll be pinned in a post. If we find it.
Yeah, I'll get that. I'll get it for you first thing tomorrow morning, and then I'll text it to you.
Yeah, and sometimes I just want to say something. Sometimes a lot of people don't know this is a big effort. He probably woke up at 7 a.m. to drive and work all day, and it's 9:38 p.m. Eastern time zone, and he's here sharing with us. So I honestly do appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. And I don't want to say you're the first. You're either the first or second English guest we've had, English speaking guest, not English, you know what I mean, just speak English. So thank you again for sharing with us.
Anytime.
And then again, he's super accessible, even if you live in another part of the state that's not Florida, California, Texas, wherever you live, Puerto Rico. He's available to clarify doubts. And then if he can't help you directly, he can guide you to a friend or an acquaintance that's more close to you to help you on this. Thank you both. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Oh, anytime. Thank you.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.